Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our weekly Westchester update. Today is Monday, October 24th, and we're here today to give you an update on a number of different issues that are pending in our county. Ken Jenkins, Deputy County Executive, is not with us this week. He will rejoin us next week in time for a Halloween edition of the update. And we are very happy to have with us the mayor of the village of Briarcliff Manor, who I'm going to introduce in a second. He is our municipal partner for this episode. We are going to touch a little bit on budgetary issues. We'll talk about some legislation that has been approved in the Board of Legislators. We'll also take a look at early voting, which is coming up beginning this Saturday, and then we'll also touch on, to the extent that we can, a program that we have to try to get donations during the holiday season as we approach Thanksgiving holiday, which we are approaching as soon as we clear Halloween and, of course, Veterans Day, both of which will be days that's coming in the next few weeks. And so we've got a lot of different activities happening. But let's first go to our municipal partner. Today, our visitor, a guest who's going to speak with us, is the mayor of the village of Briarcliff Manor, Steve Vescio. And Steve has been a good friend as we've worked together on some issues. Briarcliff Manor is a community of about 7,600 individuals, and they have a very nonpartisan system of government. There are about four localities in Westchester County where you do not have the traditional Republican versus Democrat type of local elections. Briarcliff Manor is one of them. And Briarcliff Manor is also unique in that it is a village that straddles two towns, the town of Ossining and the town of Mount Pleasant. Mamaroneck Village has the same situation as well, since there are two towns that it's involved in. And that makes local governing a little bit trickier because there are certain authorities that's given to villages and certain authorities that are given to towns, and those have to mesh as they deal with those issues. It's far beyond local government 101. It's the system that we have in New York. But Steve manages it very well with his board. And if you haven't been to Briarcliff Manor, it's a lovely village. It's got a great little downtown shopping district. It stretches from the Hudson River over to the central part of the county, and I'll let him tell you more about it. It's got some historic sites in it, and hopefully a place you'll find a way to stop by and visit during the course of the days to come. So without any further introduction, the mayor of the village of Briarcliff Manor, Steve Vescio. Steve, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you, County Executive Latimer, for the introduction, as well as for having me here today. It's great to be here to speak a little bit about Briarcliff Manor and the excellent partnership that we've had with the county over my last 3.5 years as mayor. It's really a great team effort that we've seen, open lines of communication, common sense discussions and decision-making, and really, George just has a great team around him with hardworking, dedicated people that just get stuff done. And that's really great to see in government. That's also an approach we take in Briarcliff with our nonpartisan system, as you mentioned. Westchester County has been great in supporting the improvements all over the county, specifically infrastructure, parks, and really just the overall efficiency of government, which is something that we all strive for these days, a government that works hard for us and that is very efficient in doing so. So the team has been doing a great job with that. Also, George is always willing to take an opportunity when it arises and make a tough decision, which is something that is a true characteristic of a great leader, something that sets an example for all of the other mayors and supervisors in the county to take the stance that you believe is right, for better or worse, and see it through. And that has been very successful, and the county has definitely led the way for all of us to improve and be as good as we can be. I mentioned parks. The county has been actively improving their parks, which we all learned during the pandemic, how important that was to get out for our mental sanity and recreate. And what I'm even more impressed about is they're actively looking to acquire and preserve new parks next to important regional assets, including environmental assets. And I think that's commendable. Briarcliff recently formed an Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee, which has a similar mission to preserve our environment, to make sure that any development is done in a respectful and common sense manner, and also so that there's open space for people to hike and recreate. We have a lot of great assets in the county. The North County Trailway runs through Briarcliff, and it's pretty close to our downtown. There was a lot of great state improvements done to that recently, and I know the county was instrumental in getting those done, so we thank them for that. Briarcliff is actually creating a new connector trail from the North County Trailway into the Briarcliff Manor downtown to try to bring more people into our business district via bicycle and otherwise. And this was approved and this was supported greatly by the county. Also supported by the county, which is going to be just incredible for Briarcliff, is the first time in 50 years we're going to be conducting downtown streetscape improvements. That's through a New York State TAP grant, Transportation Alternative Program grant, in just over $3 million that the county supported that initiative. So that will make for safer sidewalks, raised crosswalks, better pedestrian flow, and also for these bicyclists that may be coming off the trailway, a better experience to get into the downtown and go into our local businesses. So that's going to be great for Briarcliff. It's also going to be great for all of Westchester, another improved downtown. We've seen many of these over the last 10 years, and it's excellent to see in our county. We've received some direct assistance from the county as well. They provided a senior bus to us, which we use to take many of the senior residents to food shop and other activities, and that is a great bus. It gets utilized multiple times a week. The county, like I said, has been improving the roadways in our district. They have been paving them, taking care of the potholes, and supporting efforts with the state. Many people cut through Briarcliff because they don't want to get on 9A, and the county has been instrumental and really important to get this through and over the finish line. The $3 million study for Route 9A is going to be starting by the end of this year. The state notified us last week that they were able to expedite that by using a pre-approved firm, and I truly believe that study would not have happened without the support of County Executive Latimer and his team. So I thank him for that, because that not only benefits our little community of Briarcliff, it benefits tens of thousands of people that drive that roadway every day, their families. It's really a critical regional corridor, and improving it is going to help the entire county thrive for decades to come. As I said, I'm just really impressed with George and his team. They're a bunch of hardworking individuals, incredibly dedicated to supporting the community and to public service. And things in Westchester County are significantly better as a result of their efforts. I'm looking forward to all the great things that we'll do together with the county and their support, and all the great things that's to come to Westchester County. So again, County Executive Latimer, thank you for the time, and thank you for all you do to make Westchester such a great place to live.
Thank you very much, Steve. Really appreciate you being with us here today. Steve Vescio, who is the mayor of the Village of Briarcliff Manor, and I want to compliment both the mayor, the members of the Board of Trustees, and the people of Briarcliff Manor. They have, as was mentioned, a unique bipartisan system. Scarsdale has a system. Pleasantville has a bipartisan system. Rye Brook does, and it really shows a commitment of individuals when they serve on the Briarcliff board. There is no great wealth to be gained by being a Briarcliff mayor or trustee. The prestige is about as much as when somebody calls you because they have a problem with garbage pickup on a given day. But it really is a commitment to public service that are shown in communities like that. And I think you get the kind of quality government that comes from people who are doing it because they want to do it, because they want to help their fellow residents. So, Steve, congratulations to you and your board for the work that you do. We're happy to be a partner, and the 9A project is probably the single biggest positive thing that the state and the county can do to help your area and also the connecting areas, because for anybody who travels through that corridor, the major heavy truck traffic comes on 9A to not be on Route 9, which goes right up through all of the river villages. And the roadway was never really built for that intent, and so now we have to look at what we have to do to make it a better quality roadway. Hopefully we'll accomplish that during our common tenure. So thank you again to Steve. Let me touch on a number of different issues. Hopefully that'll be of some interest. We don't anticipate an extremely long report today. We're approaching the public release of our Westchester County budget for the fiscal year 2023. Our fiscal year is coincidental with the calendar year. So the county, as all towns and a number of cities, have a January 1st to December 31st fiscal year. That is not the case for the state of New York, which operates a mid-year scenario, April 1st to March 31st, and school districts and villages are generally on a different calendar. But the calendar year circumstances means that we need to put to bed that budget by the end of December so that we have an active operating budget for the 1st of January. We've never had a late budget in Westchester County history. We don't intend to see one this year. We will release the budget publicly in its entirety on Thursday, November 10th, which is not too far from now, roughly a little over 2.5 weeks away. And we submit it to the Board of Legislators. We'll do a press conference where we turn it over to Catherine Borgia, who's the chair of the Board of Legislators. So she, Vidat Gashi, who is the chair of the Budget Committee, will officially accept it and then review it. Between now and then, we have a couple of things to mention. We have already announced our capital budget, which is one of the series of budgets that get dealt with in the entirety of the county budget process. We released that just a week, 10 days ago. And the capital budget includes certain major reconstruction work that's going to be going on in Westchester County. The operating budget is where you'll find your tax rate and the operating amounts for each of the different departments of county government. Next week, we intend to tease some of the more important areas so that you have an idea of what to expect to see in the final budget. We're going to talk about where we are with funding the police, the corrections department, and the probation department. Those three departments of county government represent our public safety combination. It's quite the issue of the day today. What are we doing to try to help you feel safe living in Westchester County? We want to let you know in some detail what it is that we are going to be funding and how we think that will be helpful. We'll also be clear about what we think will happen to the property tax rate, and we'll give you that indication as well. The full budget, again, Thursday, November 10th. In anticipation of that, we have scheduled 2 county budget public input sessions prior to the release of the budget. Now, this is unprecedented prior to our administration. We started this process in the fall of 2018 for the 2019 budget, and we've maintained that even through COVID when we did it virtually. And we just had our first of those 2 sessions last Thursday in Peekskill at the Peekskill Library. And as is appropriate, we open the door to anybody who wants to walk in, and you'll get individuals and you'll get organizations that come in. Many of the organizations that have contractual relationships with Westchester County to lobby for the funding that they feel they need for the new year. At the Thursday session that we had in Peekskill, the Westchester Library System was represented and spoke. Representatives from the Child Care Council, where we do quite a bit of structural funding for child care services around the county. We had a local group, CHOP, which is involved in the homeless in the Peekskill area, both for feeding and housing purposes. And so that dialogue comes in, and they present general information, which we take into account as we prepare the executive budget. The second and final of these 2 public sessions will be coming up a week from this Wednesday, meaning a week from Wednesday, November 2nd. That will be at 7 o'clock in the village of Pelham. It's at the Durango Townhouse, Pelham Townhouse, 20 Fifth Avenue. It is a short stroll from the Pelham train station, right in the heart of the village of Pelham, the town of Pelham. And those who are welcome to attend in person. You may listen to testimony, or you can speak yourself. We're certainly willing to accept any written testimony. And we encourage people who have ideas that they want to share with us or opinions they want to share, and we will absorb all of that. You can communicate with us by email to communications@westchestergov.com, and you can find that on our Westchester website, or you can come in person and testify in person. You can submit written copy. We do limit the length of time of speakers at these situations so that we have the opportunity for as many people to be heard as is appreciated. So the live public comments are limited in time, but we want to know your opinion, and so you have other mechanisms to do that as well. With that input, when we release the budget on November 10th, it goes to the Westchester County Board of Legislators, and they will begin the process of holding hearings through their Budget and Appropriations Committee. Those meetings are open to the public. The Board of Legislators will announce the time and place for a number of public forums in which individuals can then comment to the Board of Legislators on the actual budget itself. The session that we have coming up from the administration is before we finalize the budget. After we finalize the budget, then there's a public hearing process. And there's a process that the Board of Legislators goes through where they create additions to the budget, areas of additional spending or revenue, and then they have a date in which they have to consolidate their final budget by eliminating anything they've added to the budget, whether it stands scrutiny or not. And then at that point in time, they will have a session established, usually in the first 10 days of December, to have votes on the budget. There is a veto authority that I have as county executive, either over the whole budget or over any additions made to the budget. I have not seen necessary to use the veto authority that's been given to me because we negotiate these things. And we listen to all voices, bipartisan voices on the Board of Legislators, those that represent both of the major political parties. And we try to find compromise and a consensus place to get to. The last 3 years, we have not had an increase or a decrease in county property taxes, which is perhaps the single biggest question we're asked. But that alone is not the only input that you need to have in order to evaluate a budget. How we spend the money we have, what we do with staffing, and a host of different programs and services all make up what the analysis of the budget is. So we will next week have a couple of press conferences to be able to give you some idea of what's happening, and then you'll see the full budget on November 10th. After the input session that we have on the 2nd of November, the Board of Legislators takes it over for the rest of November into the mid part of December. Assuming we do our work on time, we can enjoy the holiday season, Christmas shopping season, and religious holidays, and then right up to New Year's Day. And then we begin the brand new year with the budget in place and every effort meant to implement it. That's where we are on the budget. I will highlight that since we have already released the capital budget, that information is available for citizens to scrutinize. We have a lot of different projects in this, what amounts to my 5th budget as county executive. On the capital side, we have capital allocations for the Hilltop Hanover Farm and Environmental Center in Yorktown, the Playland Ice Casino in Rye. We have flood mitigating projects that include the Mamaroneck and the Sheldrake Rivers. We have another section of the Bronx River Parkway that's going to get some repaving. We have some bridges to reconstruct. We've got to make some improvements on Central Park Avenue in Yonkers, which is a county road, and a host of other bridges and road projects around the county. You've seen some of them over the course of the last few years. And as we continue to do more of them, some of this is ongoing maintenance, but they're significant projects. They can be very expensive, but they're necessary to maintain an asset. And as the mayor pointed out, we've really made an effort to try to upgrade the existing assets that we have, and at the same time try to obtain additional parkland or additional land for appropriate public service. And to do that all within the context of a budget that's balanced, a budget that shows Wall Street rating agencies that we're a responsible government, and then also at the same time where we can reduce property taxes, county property taxes. Keep in mind, county property taxes are roughly about, in round numbers, something to 25% of your total tax bill. The municipal taxes and the county taxes together are about a third, and then about 2/3 would represent your school property taxes in most of the communities. But that gives you some idea of where we're going, and we encourage you to interact with the process, be aware of what's happening. This is part of the responsibilities and the rights of being a citizen. You have a right to be able to access public information. You have a responsibility to access public information so you can make intelligent choices, give intelligent input. Many of us operate within a certain, philosophical framework, and that sort of governs whether we like or dislike something almost before we know what it is. And unfortunately, I think that many times, our residents say, well, I don't know, no one told me. And well, you have to do your research. You have to search out for it. We have on our website, westchestergov.com information. League of Women Voters puts out information that's available as well. And you got to dig a little bit because sometimes, people will be upset over things, and the information was there. They had a chance to input, but they didn't take advantage of it. So hopefully you'll take advantage of it in this cycle. Let me highlight that the Westchester County Board of Legislators has taken a number of different actions over the last few weeks. I just wanted to highlight some of them. The Board of Legislators, again, under the leadership of Catherine Borgia, will highlight in a variety of circumstances their electronic newsletters, their public press announcements, some of the actions they've taken. In almost every one of these cases, the action taken by the Board of Legislators comes back to my desk to sign into law, whether it's a law or an act or some other type of conveyance of things. There are a variety of other legal constructs that work in this direction. Over the last couple of weeks, the board has approved bonding for a number of projects that were part of our existing capital project plan. And when we actually go out to the bond market to get the money, we now have the ability to complete doing the project. The Ward Pound Ridge Reservation Dam Project is one of those ones that the board has just approved. Ward Pound Ridge is the largest of the county parkland holdings. It straddles the border of Lewisboro, town of Lewisboro, the town of Pound Ridge in the northeast section of the county. We have a number of improvements to Muscoot Farm which is in Somers, right at the intersection, almost of the intersection of Route 35 and Route 100 in the town of Somers. There's some site work, infrastructure improvements that are part there. Some of the improvements that we have structured that have been passed by the Board of Legislators are improvements to the Dunwoody Public Golf Course in Yonkers. And again, in each of these cases, the vote of the Board of Legislators is now to implement the bonding mechanism to get the finances to do the projects at hand. The projects have been identified in the approved county capital budget. So it's a bit of a process. We had the Board of Legislators approve a quitclaim deed to Mount Hope AME Zion Church in White Plains, which will allow a nonprofit to restore a 19th century cemetery for African Americans and to provide recognition for those who were buried there without headstones. We have around Westchester County a number of cemeteries which were in its day segregated places for the private rest of African Americans. And that era is one in which we look back now and say we ought not to have seen segregation even at the point of death, but it existed, and those folks are buried in those cemeteries. And now we need to give those cemeteries the proper respect that we give all cemeteries, to recognize all the people that lived and walked amongst us. In due time, we join them. In this particular case, there needed to be action by the County Board of Legislators that would allow this church in White Plains to help do what is necessary to revitalize that cemetery and to recognize the people there. We have bond acts which the board passed that can be very mundane, such as providing lead abatement at our central maintenance facility here in the center of the county. A lot of construction that went on years ago were done with asbestos or lead paint or other chemicals or products that are now seen as injurious to your health or environmentally unsound. But those constructions are such that we now have to go back and retrofit or correct the presence, in this case, of lead in painting and in our facilities. And some of the facilities that we have are not open to the public, but they are open to our workforce, and we want to protect the health and welfare of the people who work for the county as much as we do all individuals in the county. So all of these are things that have been accomplished. The Board of Legislators recently voted to appoint, it's actually a reappointment, Tejan Nelson as one of the two commissioners for the Board of Elections. Very substantially, they passed, and I signed into presence, a change in senior citizen and disabled individuals' homeowner tax exemptions to broaden the applicability of those tax exemptions for individuals who qualify. If you fall into the category either of a senior citizen or a disabled homeowner, then you would want to get some more information. You can contact us, 995-2900, our executive branch, 995-2800, the Board of Legislators, to review that. But you will see that we have opened this up to a larger group of people who will benefit from the tax rescission. We have a capital project for the Jackson Avenue Pump Station that is in that corridor where Greenberg, Hastings, and Yonkers are connected. Our sewer treatment system, we have 7 sewer treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants to be more specific, around the county that takes the waste products that we generate in this society and treats it in a way that it can be then discharged without environmental impact to the Long Island Sound and to the Hudson River. And the system operates on a gravity system, so that we have pump stations in certain locations to reverse the effect of topography, where we have an area that's low-lying below where we have a main pipe that goes to the sewer treatment plant. We need a pumping structure to pump the sewerage up to the main pipe. And so these pump stations that are around, you'll see them in all parts of the county that are served by our sewer system. They too need upgrading, and they are part of this overall system of environmental facilities that we have in the county. So the replacement of certain mechanical plumbing elements of the pump station, and then also odor control, which is a major concern for the people that live near these facilities. And we want to make sure that we're doing that effectively. In this case, Jackson Avenue Pump Station is part of the Bronx Valley Sanitary Sewer District, so it affects people who live in the areas of Greenberg and Greenberg and Yonkers and some of the other surrounding villages. So hopefully those are all positive steps. Much of the work that we do in county government, I'm sure it's true in the village and the town governments as well, may seem very mundane. They're necessary activities. They are not sexy. They are not going to get the attention of the New York tabloid media. And to some extent, people who have resided in other places, in the city of New York, and they come out here to the suburbs, they don't really understand what village, town, local government does. And yet, the services that we provide are essential services. The removal of garbage, the transfer by the county and disposal of it, the disposal of recyclables, the disposal of sewage, all are very critical elements to have the modern society that we have now. And so these are actions taken by the Board of Legislators. We appreciate their involvement and leadership. And I encourage you, reach out to your local county legislator. Each person lives in one of the 17 legislative districts. If you don't know who your county legislator is, you can go to their website or you can access it through our website, and you can get to know that person. And just as you have a person who represents you in the United States Senate, we actually have two of them statewide, and Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. You have member of Congress, State Assembly, State Senate. So do you have also county legislators. I served in that capacity a number of years ago, who represent you on issues within the county. And when you go to the polls, county legislators and county executives are how you assert the direction. No, there are no county elections this year. No county officials on the ballot this year, but there's a way for you to be involved on an ongoing basis, a 365 basis, so you can know what's happening. Quick update on our public health issues. We're seeing a very static situation with COVID right now. We're hopeful that'll continue. The other issues that we've talked about in the past really aren't a large enough concern even to reference them anymore. With the COVID circumstances, we're now offering the bivalent vaccine to those under the age of 12, 5 to 11, starting this Friday from 1 to 3 at our clinic located at 134 Court Street here in downtown White Plains, our White Plains County Health Clinic. We have flu and COVID clinics available at that location on Mondays and Fridays at different times. And then we have a special clinic satellite setup, I should say, on Thursday, November 3rd from 2 to 6:30 at the Yonkers Riverfront Library. So for those who live in Yonkers or anywhere in that quadrant of the county, you can go to Yonkers Riverfront Library on that single day, Thursday, November 3rd, to have the same shots that you can have here in White Plains regularly on Mondays and Fridays. And hopefully you'll find all of that to be helpful. We're approaching now early voting for the November elections. Election day is Tuesday, November 8th. And on the ballot, you will see candidates for statewide office and federal office. The United States Senate has a seat up this year. And wherever you live in the county, there's two congressional districts within Westchester County, and so you'll vote for your United States Senate, and you'll vote for a member of the House of Representatives. You have at the statewide level, you live in a district that has a state senator and a state assembly member. They'll be on the ballot. And of course, this you have governor and lieutenant governor on one voting ticket. State attorney general and state controller are on the ballot. And then you also have state Supreme Court judges, and there'll be 7 slots this year elected, and you have competition in all of these different races. So this is the opportunity for you objectively to go out and research the various candidates. You have a county court judge race. It's unopposed. There's one candidate from one of the parties, so there's no competition there. And then in some communities, you have local races for unexpired terms on local council seats, Rice City, Bedford. There's a few others out there that will be filling their vacancy this election day. But that's on the front side of the ballot. As we've said many times before, if you flip the ballot over, you have Proposition 1, New York State Proposition 1, the Environmental Bond Act. That's a $4.2 billion allocation of capital resources that will allow all of us to be able to come up with programs to fight climate change, to help harden our infrastructure in the way of flooding and hurricane impacts, also to be able to provide clean drinking water where those issues are at hand, and electrify elements of our fleet to make them less sensitive to the fossil fuel carbon needs that they have, and try to reduce our carbon footprint. Those and a host of other issues are available within this. We've had a press conference on this already. You may be seeing the video at least of the flip it over and vote. But you should flip the ballot over after you vote for the candidates for various offices and look at the propositions. There will be a couple of other propositions locally in the various communities. There's a great League of Women Voters Guide out there, and you should get a copy of it and go through it, and it will highlight some of those different localized referendum there in the village of Mamaroneck, and the village of Hastings has a local vote, village of Tuckahoe, and there are others as well. So as you look for them, those are important. Now you can vote on Election Day, and again, that's Tuesday, November 8th. You can vote by absentee ballot, and that can be accessed by going online and printing out an absentee ballot request form, completing it, submitting it to the Board of Elections, and you will get in the mail an absentee ballot for you to complete and submit it. You need to have those things submitted, postmarked no later than Election Day, Thursday, November 8th, and as we're now about 15 days out, there's still a decent window of time. You can print out the absentee ballot form by going to our website, westchestergov.com, looking at departments, clicking on Board of Elections, and then looking for where you can print out your absentee ballot request. And then you'll fill it out. When you get it, you'll seal it and follow the instructions in it, and your vote will be counted as well. The third way that you can have your opinion registered is by voting early. This was legislation that was passed by the New York State Legislature, signed into law by the governor back in 2019, and has applied now for the last number of races. And what it is beginning this Saturday, October 29th, through Sunday, November 6th, you can go to one of a number of different locations and do exactly what you would do on Election Day in your home precinct, which is get a ballot for you to vote on. And if you go to any of these early voting locations, anywhere in the county, you can vote, no matter where you live in the county. The ballot that will be presented to you once you give them your address will be the ballot that you would normally see as a resident of the community that you live in. And the same ballot that you would vote on Election Day is given to you in early voting. Early voting as a convenience, really, is important because people do not always have the ability to control their schedule for the one day of Election Day. And there may be a difference in philosophy by different people, but I certainly believe that you want to make it as convenient as you can for people to vote. In my corporate years, I never knew when I'd get a call and I had to travel out of town, and it could easily be on Election Day, and that was the only day that I could register my vote. And it wasn't time enough to get an absentee ballot, which is the alternate in the past. Now with early voting, you'll be able to vote from Saturday, October 29th through Sunday, November 6th. We have a graphic, I believe, and I'll just go over the hours very quickly. Saturday, October 29th, Sunday, October 30th, and then at the end of this process, Saturday, November 5th, and Sunday, November 6th, you can vote from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So the 2 Saturdays and the 2 Sundays before the election, starting this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. During the week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, voting hours are from 8 in the morning to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, the vote begins at 12 noon and goes on until 8 p.m. So if you're looking at a practical schedule, if you can only vote after work, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, then you have Tuesday night and Thursday night where the hours go a little bit later. If you prefer to vote early in the morning, you have those options on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting at 8 o'clock. And then, of course, over the weekend, you have a 10 to 6 run. And if you can't vote during the week for one reason or another, you have 4 weekend dates upon which you can vote early. There is no early voting the day before the general election. So Monday, November 7th, if you haven't voted early, you have to go to the polls on Tuesday, November 8th. And you go to the local polling area that you're accustomed to going to. The church, the community center, whatever it is the location is where you should be. Again, if you have any questions, you can go online and ask questions that way. There's an address finder. Or you can call your local village, town, or city clerk and ask them, and they'll have somebody on staff that can tell you, given your address, if the voting precinct has changed. Some have changed because of COVID protocols. I can think there are 2 election districts I know in my home city of Rye City that previously were in the Osborne. You cannot go into a nursing home now to use it for voting purposes, so they have an alternate site. And for the people who live in that area, they should be informed by note card. But if you missed the note card, if you're not sure, go on, find out either online or by phone. Now, the early voting that stretches out over these 9 days can be done at any one of our 23 locations, and they're all over the county. There's a list that should show up as a graphic, but I'm going to mention all of them. Eastchester Public Library, Hastings-on-Hudson Public Library, Greenburgh Town Hall, St. Gregory the Great Church on Halsted Avenue in Harrison, the Mamaroneck Town Center, the Mount Kisco Public Library, the Mount Pleasant Community Center, the Caputo Community Center in Ossining, the Pound Ridge Townhouse in Pound Ridge, Rybrook Firehouse on King Street in Rybrook, the Somers Townhouse on Route 202 in Somers, Jefferson Village Annex on Hill Boulevard in Yorktown Heights, the Yorktown Cultural Center in downtown Yorktown Heights, the Doles Center, 250 South 6th Avenue in Mount Vernon, and Mount Vernon City Hall, 1 Roosevelt Square. In New Rochelle, there are 2 locations. The City Hall Annex at 90 Beaufort Place, which is right around the back of the main entrance to City Hall, in New Rochelle, and New Rochelle United Methodist Church, 1200 North Avenue in New Rochelle, sort of opposite the Wackiego Country Club in the northern part of the community. In Peekskill, you can go to the Lincoln Depot Visitor Center. What more appropriate place can you vote than at the wonderful museum that honors Abraham Lincoln? That's on Water Street in Peekskill. You can also vote in Peekskill at the Peekskill Neighborhood Center, which is where the library is on Nelson Avenue, right in the heart of Peekskill, opposite City Hall. And then in Yonkers, there are 3 locations. The Will Library, Gritton Will Library, located on Central Park Avenue, sort of the eastern edge of town. Nodine Hill Community Center on Fillmore Street, sort of downtown Yonkers. And then by the waterfront, Yonkers Riverfront Library down at Larkin Center. And here in White Plains, the Westchester County Board of Elections is also a place where you can vote early. If you work in White Plains, you can vote there, and certainly if you live in White Plains or the immediate environs, that is the most convenient location for you. So there's 23 different early voting centers. You can go to any single one of them, and you can get the ballot. I make a point of going to different early voting centers just to test it out each year, once a year, 1 vote a year. And any Westchester registered voter is eligible to vote. The early voting locations will be able to identify that you are who you say you are and be able to verify your signature so that we have proper checking. We've had no incidents of any kind of election fraud here in Westchester County over my lifetime in the county, much less my involvement in government. So there's always fears that people are going to do things, but there have been no manifestation of it here in Westchester. And as far as the vote counts will be, the Board of Elections has an ongoing vote access calculation that goes on that night. You can click on the website. Once the polls close, you'll see same-day voting and then some early voting numbers, and then the absentee ballots are subject to some court issues that have yet to be resolved. So you may not get a full picture of what happens on election night. And of course, in many of these races, in this cycle, the voting is included in other areas of the counties, which would not be reflected in our numbers. So at least one of the congressional seats and the statewide races, the judge races, go outside of Westchester County. But you'll be able to see some information online through our operation. If you decide to get an absentee ballot and you get and accept an absentee ballot, you cannot vote early and you cannot vote on the same day of election. You must use the absentee ballot to register your vote. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, I'll get the absentee ballot as backup security, it becomes your sole means of voting if you've applied for it and received the absentee ballot. So just keep that in mind as part of that. If you want more information about early voting or any of these other provisions, you can call the Westchester County Board of Elections at 995-5700. You can call the State Board of Elections at 518-474-1953, or you can go on this New York State Board of Elections website and you'll get more information about early voting and some of these other voting parameters. Again, let me mention that in addition to the candidates, you have the Bond Act, Proposition 1, the Environmental Bond Act, flip it over, and then you have a chance to vote yes or no. It is your choice to make. The Board of Legislators has passed a resolution in support of the bond. We have about 20 municipalities that have done the same. Some have not taken a stand, and they're probably opposition as well in certain places. You get to make the decision as to whether this allocation should be appropriate. I encourage you to do your homework. You've got time. You can read up on pro and con and draw a judgment, which hopefully will be helpful to you. Moving off of the voting situation, just for the last bullet to update you on in this report, we have a program each year called Stuff a Bus. And that is meaning the Beeline bus is going to be stuffed with donated items that would help people have an adequate Thanksgiving food period. This is done through Stop and Shop. We want to thank them for being sponsors and operational partners for this effort. And it also involves Feeding Westchester, which is one of our partners that we use regularly to help get food donated and otherwise out to the various places that they're distributed in the community. The donation bins at Stop and Shop stores countywide will be up at this period of time. When you're out shopping, you see the bin, you buy some material that you're going to donate, you put it in the bin, and then ultimately all the bins in Westchester will stuff a bus, a Beeline bus, filled with donated items that will go to help the needy at Thanksgiving time. We'll also highlight for you that as we get closer to Thanksgiving time, probably next week, we'll give you an idea of some other plans that we have. We want to be very clear that we understand this is a difficult economic time. There is both inflation and potentially a looming recession. Those issues are resolved at a level of government much higher than mine. But because we're mindful of it, we intend to announce some additional efforts that we're making to try to make it less expensive for you. What we do in terms of our tax bill is one of them. We've done some things already, such as freeze tuition rates at the community college. We did some actions in the summertime that completed at the end of the summer. We're going to reintroduce some of those for the holiday season. We'll tell you about that in the next couple of days so you get an idea of what it is we're going to try to do within the parameters of county government. We have a certain amount of resources to do certain projects, but we don't have anything like the size of resources that either the state or the federal government has. But we are going to try to do our share in all of these different things. So that basically gives you a rough idea of some of the key issues happening right now. We know that the attention is on the federal government, the attention is on the state government, as it should be, as we are 15 days before an important election. We hope you'll study up on candidates and the issues. And then in the meantime, we will do our due diligence on the budget. We'll get ready for the attention to swing back to us as we start trying to finalize our county budget and what its impact is on you, not just in terms of taxes, but in terms of public service. I just want to check with Joe Scamato, who's with us here today, see if we have any press inquiries. I guess not. So if there are members of the press watching this, please feel free to reach out to us at 995-2932, and we'll be happy to amplify any additional information we can. And you're welcome to reach out to Mayor Vescio directly. There's a great website that Briarcliff Manor Village has, and you can click on to there and you'll find a means of communications to the mayor either by email or by telephone, and we encourage you to reach out to your local government. We hope you have a wonderful week ahead. We'll be back on Halloween Monday. I don't plan for us to have masks on or anything, but we'll have an opportunity to give you an update of what things are happening at that point. But in the meantime, we wish you a very healthy week ahead. We hope you can stay safe, and we'll see you next Monday. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks very much.